Verbal communication. Good communication skills are something that everyone should have. One-on-one interaction, presentation, public speaking abilities, and effective telephonic skills are all examples of verbal communication skills. Composition of words and sentences is important in any type of communication. Importance of verbal communication. Verbal communication is the effective presentation of your ideas in a spoken format, that is, via talking. In the professional world, verbal communication skills are vital. Whether it's a weekly meeting or a presentation to stakeholders, vocal communication is crucial. People remember those who communicate clearly, effectively, confidently, and charismatically. With practice, you, too, can become an excellent public speaker. Most of us have the ability to communicate verbally. The key is to understand how to best use them. Language is the means by which humans communicate with one another, whether orally or in writing. It is the first level of communication and emphasizes what is said. The utilization of concepts forms the foundation of this style of communication. Characteristics of verbal communication. The nature of verbal communication is oral. Talking, laughing, and listening are all examples of oral communication. Spoken communication is frequently used to manage various emotional situations. For written communication, we have a variety of support materials like scripts, alphabets, acronyms, logos, and visuals. However, this is not the same as verbal or spoken communication. There are a number of traits that are unique to verbal communication, including the message being communicated is directly or indirectly related to an object. We use concepts to communicate messages. The message's content should be understood by both the sender and the recipient. Cultural factors affect the message's content. While communicating emotions and feelings, a sender's state of mind affects the message's content. Advantages of verbal communication. One of the biggest benefits of verbal communication is that it allows for the immediate transmission of messages or information. As a result, the person on the receiving end does not have to wait for the message to get delivered through a chosen medium, saving a significant amount of time. 2. Immediate feedback. One benefit of vocal communication is the ability to receive feedback right away, which is frequently impossible with written communication. A brief response in conversation also closes the loop of the sender-receiver communication cycle. 3. Convenience. Verbal communication makes it simpler to deliver a message or piece of information with better expressiveness and clarity, which helps the recipients understand it more fully. 4. No delays. Another advantage of verbal communication is that it allows for the quick sharing of thoughts and ideas in the event of an emergency, so avoiding any kind of decision-making delay. 5. Human touch. Verbal communication uses tone, pitch, and facial emotions, which gives messages a human and personal touch. This finally helps messages convey a kind and warm mood rather than a commanding tone. 6. Cost-effective. Since it does not necessitate paperwork or other formalities, verbal communication is one of the most cost-effective ways of communication in formal enterprises. 7. Provides motivation. One of the most important advantages of verbal communication is that it stimulates and encourages employees to participate in various corporate conversations on a personal level. 8. Maintains confidentiality. As messages or information are mainly sent through personal contact in verbal communication, it is simpler for the sender to protect message confidentiality. 9. Support for many mediums. Verbal communication always gives the sender the option of using several forms of communication to deliver a message. Visuals, audio, written communications, presentations, and other formats may be used. 10. Adaptable. Verbal communication is frequently adaptable in terms of decisions or in accordance with any previous communications in an organization. This also contributes to the elimination of confusion and misunderstanding. 11. Fast transfer of responsibilities. Verbal communication offers the advantage of quickly transferring responsibilities, allowing for efficient and immediate delegation of tasks. Individuals can respond immediately if they have any questions to ask verbally. Disadvantages of verbal communication. 1. Misunderstandings. Since verbal communication is not completely ordered, and external noise, which is one of the key aspects of communication, can distort a message and cause misunderstandings. 2. Inefficient for long messages. One of the most significant disadvantages of verbal communication is that it may be ineffective for transmitting essential or longer messages. The sender may fail to clarify, or the receiver may be unable to absorb all of the information at once. 3. Inclusion of extraneous material. As verbal communication is less spontaneous, it is possible for any irrelevant information to slip in, and the main topic may lose its significance. This frequently leads to further delays in effective communication. 4. Risk of denial. One major disadvantage of verbal communication is the possibility of the sender or receiver denying the transmission of a message or information. This risk exists if verbal or oral communication is not documented. 5. Unsuitable for long-distance communication. Verbal communication is often unsuitable for long-distance communication because it relies on face-to-face interaction or real-time conversation. It can be challenging due to factors like time zone differences, poor signal quality, or miscommunication caused by a lack of visual cues and body language. This makes it less efficient for conveying detailed or critical information compared to written methods. 6. There is no prior record. One of the many limitations of verbal communication is that it is not always documented and so cannot be referred to or used as evidence in the future. This might cause serious problems when resolving conflicts between two people. 7. Lack of authenticity. Since it is intimate and informal, verbal communication frequently lacks credibility. As a result, it is less appropriate for a formal organization where messages must be true and genuine. 8. Forgettable. As verbal communication lacks a record, it is readily forgotten by the receiver. This might cause numerous complications and delays in a formal corporate activity. 9. Need for adequate skills. Communication is a process that goes both ways, thus appropriate speaking and listening skills are required on both ends for efficient verbal communication. 10. Less formality in relationships. Verbal communication can occasionally reduce formality in organizational relationships for employees who do not take their bosses seriously. 11. Time wasting. When unnecessary conversations distract people from their tasks, verbal communication becomes a waste of time, which may lead to an ineffective communication process.